Good evening, everyone. And how is everyone doing this evening? As you can see, it's your favorite crazy person in the world. I'm here tonight. Not only do you think I'm crazy before, or thought I was crazy before, you can think I'm crazy again. Or am I?
Maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe I'm just here to entertain you. Or maybe I'm here to give you a warning of something that you're not aware of. Just like putting the toilet paper on the roll backwards. It runs out faster. There were scientific studies. Do it right. It'll last longer. It'll save you money.
Do 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 do.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? Well, this is just a live stream that old Bouncer Slab's putting together, and he wants you to know that it's for entertainment purposes only. So don't get all butthurt with what he says, because he's just gonna be himself. Hello, Rosie Wren. I'm Mrs. Gangrene Thumb, and I'm Bouncer's Buddy Bear. And I'm...
Bubbles. Hi, Rosie. How you doing? I'm Bubbles. And you know what 50 cents does, but we don't have to go there, okay? I already got the vapor rub and the brainwash tuning chicken control ready to get into some
baby slap do 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 baby slap do 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 baby slap do 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 baby slap action. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That's as close to baby slab song as you're gonna get tonight. We're not gonna play it because this is a serious chat. It's serious and it's about Bigfoot. And does Bigfoot really exist? Has Bouncer Slab actually had interactions with Bigfoot? And are there a lot more stories Bouncer Slab has to tell you? Well, we gotta let Bouncer tell us. We'll find out.
Well, I see Mama Cookie and I see Rosie Wren. Evidently, the title wasn't astounding. Nobody wants to see a Bouncer Slab video with Bigfoot. But we need to get you accustomed to him because old Bouncer Slab is going to make a whole bunch of Bigfoot videos that'll probably get taken down, but they're going to be real time, real things, what we really see in the woods when we go. And how do I know this? Because I'm not Scam 7. I'm not Green Diaper Wacky. I'm Bouncer Slab. Well, yep. Must not be any notifications out there tonight. Maybe one of the other streams are running hard or something's going on. So I'll just sit and talk to myself. And in common Bigfoot language, Coop437, hello. How are you tonight? I already said hi to Rosie. I don't know if I'm the rocker. I might be off my rocker, Coop. But I'm going to talk about something that a lot of people are afraid to talk to. Because other people get judgmental about what they say. So I'm going to say what I'm going to say. Whether they like it or not. Whether they believe it or not. I'm just going to tell you my opinion. And it's going to come. Tyranny Chaser, what's up, Bouncer Slab? Well, hello, Tyranny Chaser. Oh, I better give you a wrench. And there's Mama Gnome. And there's Tyranny Chaser. There we go. There you guys go. Now, you folks are from my area. So, if you spend as much time in the woods as I do, you might think something might be up with what I'm saying. Because you'll know that I don't lie, I tell the truth. We're going to have a little talk about the big furry fellas in the woods. Now, do I know for a fact that there are big furry fellas in the woods? Well, most definitely there's big furry somethings in the woods, right? I mean, there's deer, there's bear, there's raccoons, And in our local mountains, there is Bigfoot. Now you're going to say, oh, Bouncer Slab, you're crazier than a... You're just crazy. You know? And maybe I am. Maybe I am crazy. But for 23 years in an old bottle dump and bringing multiple people with me, we ran into a little critter that had small feet at first and 23 years later had huge feet before its passing. And amazingly, even the owner of the property came and told me, hey, we lost that one. Because that means it's evidently gone. It passed away. Now, did it pass away naturally? I don't know. I know one thing, all the deer, all the turkeys, all the rabbits, everything that was in that area disappeared after those years. I mean, there was a good supply and they just all disappeared. So maybe he ate himself out of house and home, or maybe he just disappeared. We never had any issues with it all those years. It would just kind of peek over piles of brush and rocks and look at us now and then, and it never gave us any issues. It never threw nothing at us until my 16-year-old daughter went out in the woods digging with me. Then we got rocks thrown at us. So I figured maybe there was something about that menstrual cycle thing, and maybe it just was triggered by it. But by this time, it was like 8 feet tall. And Mama knows all about that, and she can contest to it. She and I spent some time parking in this area, and we were being watched closely, and we didn't want to say anything to each other, but we said it at the same time. Did you see those red glowing eyes? And I thought to myself, well, it could have been anything at that height, you know, because I thought there was like a hill right there. But after further investigation, we found the ground was level with where the car was parked. So whatever was looking down at us, while I'm pounding Mama like a helpless prom date, was probably 8.5 feet tall. But it already knew us. I mean, you know, it had to have. It knew me. I'd been there for years. But once again, it never ever bothered us. But it did pass away. So end of that story. And I will go into these stories of the 23 years that it was there and watching it walk away and it taking certain things and not other, you know, for some reason it never wanted the sweets. But it always took like the tuna fish and the banana to eat the peeling. An interesting note, the very last time I had an interaction with it in that location, we'll call that area Birmingham, Pennsylvania area. The last time I had an interaction with it, it just stood up and walked away and threw a couple rocks at my 16-year-old daughter. And we left. We were only there for 45 minutes. Normally I was there for 4 or 5 hours. The issue was I was covered in ticks. My daughter had to spray carbon choke cleaner all over me because the ticks were just infested. Which brings me to the fact that maybe the ticks were affecting it, making it go crazy, and it was probably a good idea to get out of there. Now, does Bigfoot exist? Most definitely. Regardless of anything you believe, just because you ain't never seen one, have you seen a dead bear in the woods? You're not going to find a dead Bigfoot if they bury their own. Does the conservation officers want you to know there's one out there? No, they don't want you to know they're there. Bigfoot would completely destroy the logging industry, the forestry industry, period. Oil, fracking, the whole works. It would really ruin the economy, okay? So, of course, they don't want you to know that there's a species out there that would be protected if it could be proven. So whenever you have proof, they hide it as much as possible. Is that a good thing? No. Because eventually you're going to get one that's going to get mad. And they can't just always send people in to get rid of them. I mean, they have been. I mean, it's a known fact. Do your research. They do. But not all of them are bad. Tyranny Chaser, right by Tyrone above 99. What does that mean? Right, Lisa, right by Tyrone above 99. Maybe someday I'll have content. But, and Mama Cookie and I, we go out and we pick mushrooms on the backside of the Birmingham area off the game lands. And I'm going to tell you something. There's always been a lot of game there. Always been deer, turkey, grouse, rabbits, occasionally a pheasant, you know, and lots of squirrels. This last year we went up there, we didn't even see sign of any deer. Not any droppings. We didn't see a single rabbit. Didn't see a grouse. Didn't see any turkeys. We saw some turkey feathers in one place down in a ravine. We found a bunch of box turtles. One of them looked like it was gnawed on, like a steak. It was gnawed on. And the turtle was scared shitless. Usually we can pick up the box turtles and they'll like be cool and shit. But this one here, he was scared and he couldn't close his shell. And he tried reaching around the back, and that's not normal. Usually a box turtle, especially in the wild, will just close up its box shell and you can't mess with it, you know? But this one's back shell was gnawed up. This brought me to a conclusion that we weren't alone out there. And the animals disappearing brought us to a conclusion also. One day we went out there, we took the kids up in the woods, and we were pretty deep in the woods. I'm not going to lie. We were off the beaten path. Definitely, there was no trails. And we were looking for a hen of the woods, maitake mushrooms. And we didn't really have any luck. And I said, let's turn around and go. And lo and behold, turned around and I found a big maitake right behind us. We walked right by it. Well, this changed my tune. Now I wanted to go look for some more. So I went down, scattered along the deadfall, down looking for mushrooms. Mama Cookie and the kids went the other direction. And I told Baby Slab, when I come back, she needs to go with me. So once I got done scouring the area really good, hoping not to miss anything, Baby Slab caught up with me and we went down, and I said, I'm going to go down here by these stumps. There were 3 stumps down where the grass started in the edge of the woods, where all the leaf litter stopped and turned to grass. There were 3 nice, dark, big stumps. Looked like good candidates for mushrooms, wild mushrooms. But on the way down there, Baby Slab happened to find some ink cap mushrooms, by a tree stump. Another stump about 50 yards from the ones we were looking at. And Mama Cookie finally caught up to us. And her and Baby Slab were looking at them. I said, I'm going to go look at the ones by the stumps, because there's got to be mushrooms there. And as we turned around, all 3 stumps were gone. Without a sound, without anything. They would have had to fall on their bellies and drop back and crawl. They were gone. Well, at this point in time, I started getting a little nervous, because I had noticed one of the ravines that we normally walked in was now crossed with trees. And the only way to get around the trees was to either go right over them, and that was a journey, believe me, or to go around them, and you're blindsided on the right side, the only side we could get up into. You can't see what's above you. I elected to go over the trees. So we took the time and poked ourselves with jaggers and sticks and went over the trees. But as we were getting to the trees, a few moments before, Baby Slab happened to find something. And we made a little video of this squirrel skull with everything sucked out of it, laying under this fallen over tree that, well, it kind of looked like a teepee of trees. There was a squirrel skull sitting in the middle. And then Mama Cookie and I had said to each other, wow, you know what? We haven't seen any squirrels lately. We were seeing piles of squirrels and chipmunks. Now we're not seeing any squirrels. We're just seeing a few chipmunks. And the birds, of course, weren't making any noise, so that was kind of interesting. We didn't hear anything. We didn't really see anything other than the stumps disappear. I mean, how do you explain stumps disappearing in front of your eyes? But we knew there was no wild game there. Well, going back up to the landing to get up to the vehicle, we had to pass a hunting stand that someone really put in good. It was done with 4x4 treated lumber. It was a beautiful stand. It blind on one side, had a curtain on the other. Nice place. We checked it out a couple times in the few months that we were out there. This specific day, it was destroyed. Those 4x4s were shattered like toothpicks. It was down on the ground. It was completely destroyed. Not a single cut, not a saw cut, nothing. Just shattered. And the ground was messed up around her, but we couldn't find, it was a little dry up in there. It was hard to find tracks of anything, but we didn't find anything. But the stumps disappeared. That was torn down. There's no game. It was kind of spooky. My daughter doesn't really like that area. You know? Is he hiding from Bouncer? Tampa Boys Customs? I think they hide from everyone, man. I think it's such a highly evolved animal that because it's in its environment, okay? We don't control what we see in the woods. What we see is usually accidental or chased up by something else. I think they're nocturnal generally, because generally sightings of them in the areas that we've been is generally when it's kind of dark out, early morning or late in the evening. I don't know exactly if there's how many, if there's a thriving population, if there's a bunch of inbreds out there. And if there is a bunch of inbreds out there, then we got a problem, because you cannot trust an animal that had been inbred. It might have some type of issue with people. It might be like super friendly maybe, or super mean. Not something I want to deal with at that size, especially not the size of the footprints that were up in that one quarry. They were about 17 and a half inches long, and 23 years before, they were only the size of a child's foot. So it stayed there for a long time, but it never bothered us. But this one spooked us. We were up in another part of the mountain, they call it Ice Mountain, Pennsylvania here. We were below it. We were looking for mushrooms. Of course, we had very little luck, and we ran into some footprints and stuff, yeah. We also ran into a big flat area that, there was poop everywhere for 40 yards. There was poop all over the place. Didn't think nothing of it. Just got the hell out of the woods, because the upside down trees scared the crap out of me. When you see trees that are stuck into the ground upside down and the roots are facing the sky, it gets scary. Because you have to ask yourself, what could possibly do that? And no other clown was going to go where we were. We went off the beaten path, man. We went into places where most people wouldn't even go through the brush. We were getting all tore up by the jaggers and the thorns, you know. Yeah, the duct tape sippy cups. That was another location right on the edge of town. But I figured that was possibly kids left sippy cups at the park that was down below there. There was a little playground and stuff below it. And maybe this thing just collected them and brought them up there and put them in the woods in a pile. And once again, an area covered with poop everywhere. Not bear poop. Poop that kind of looked like horse poop in layers, but big. It was everywhere you went. And the only thing I didn't like about that was we got up in there and I found a bunch of broken, which looked to be leg bones, probably deer, hopefully. And I made a video of it, and the marrow had been sucked out of them, and they were stuck into the side of trees forcefully. Now that kind of spooked the shit out of me, okay? I'm not going to lie. That scared the crap out of me. Because when you see bones that are broken, completely drained, and they're broken, they weren't cut, they were broken, they were fractured all over the place. And the marrow was sucked out, and they were jabbed into a tree as if he was just like, well, I'm done. Put that son of a bitch right in the side of a tree, not thinking anyone would notice it, or it was some kind of a message. But it did lead us to a pile of sippy cups and some duct tape that looked like it was wrapped around people's wrists, you know? But, you know, back when I was a kid, we just called it the big black buck. Never shoot the big black buck with the red eyes. I mean, that was Minnesota growth, you know? You seen them, you didn't want to shoot at one back there. They were big. They were huge. Especially in some of the old mining properties that were closed off since the turn of the century in the third, up to the 30s. Those animals got huge. And they ate bigger game. And they had to get more fat reserves on them because it was a lot colder than Pennsylvania. So I understand why they were bigger. Definitely a lot broader, probably heavier. But they never really seemed to bother you. Even when you're out picking cranberries in a bog, or blueberries out in a bog, or out in the woods, picking hazelnuts. All these things I did as a kid. Asparagus along the old mining encampments. They never bothered us. It was like a part of daily life. But we weren't allowed to talk about them. The old people always said, don't talk about them. You talk about these Bigfoot, it's going to bring a whole bunch of strangers in. These strangers are going to start hunting and shooting everything up. So we learned to keep our mouths shut. Now, I had a comment brought to my attention about a year ago. Someone said, does Bigfoot ever speak to you? Well, you say, well, that crazy guy, he's going to say that. Well, I don't think he does. And I'm not kidding. I mean, they might speak to each other in some form, way, shape, form. I don't know. And to each other, they probably have some form of communication. Like, generally, when we get to the one mushroom spot we go to up in the Birmingham Woods area, I told you about it by the game lands, the moment we get our doors open on the vehicle, you hear pounding, like knocking, like someone hitting something against a tree. And then you'll hear it on the other side of you. And that's it. The birds stopped making noises because we heard the birds. The moment we got there, you could hear the birds through the open window, you know. Close up the window, get ready to go mush, and all of a sudden you hear the knocking, the birds stop. So they notified each other that we were there that way. I don't know. Does Bigfoot have big hands? Rob Random, I got to be honest with you, from the hands I saw, they're proportionate. They have big hands, and they also hang below their knees, from what I've seen. How close have I been? I've been within 30 feet. Okay? The one spot that we used to see them in all the time, we'd go down into this area, to this old bottle dump, and we always would look into the back, against the back wall of the dump, where there was this, looked like a cave, dark spot. And if it was dark, he was there, and if it was nothing blocking it, he wasn't there. And even if he was there, we still go in. And I went to check that place out. Now, this area was surrounded by broken glass everywhere except there. It was like a little nested together, a bunch of twigs and trees put together, and it was sand. So it hauled the sand from somewhere, and I can't figure that one out. But there was no footprints. But later that day, he did stand up about 3.5 hours. He must have sat in one place really close to us for about 3.5 hours. We never noticed he was there. And he stood up and kind of just put his hand behind him and swished it back behind him like he was fed up with us, and he walked away. That sucker was easily 8-9 feet tall. Like I said, he was only about 30 feet away. But he never looked back. He kind of turned his head a little, but he never looked back. He just turned around and walked away. And I knew he was there. And I knew he tolerated us for being there. He was used to us. Now, have we ever heard anything? Who here celebrates Ash Wednesday? Eric Boyce, unfortunately, I am no longer a Catholic. I was baptized as one, but I don't do it anymore. It's a tight subject. So now to the language. I heard something in the woods one day, and I couldn't translate it. And it sounded like a bunch of gibberish. Sounded like a foreign language to me. But it took me years to get this. And now I got it. Now, it's not exactly how it sounded, but I'm going to tell you what it said. Son of a sitch, you futtermucker. Go back off in your own backyard and see how your feeder peels. Well, for years it stifled me. What was it? What did it say? So I would run that through my head over and over again. Bun of a sitch, you futtermucker. Go back off in your own backyard and see how your feeder peels. Well, I couldn't get it. But I said it to a buddy of mine when he was drunk one night. And he said, you just called me a son of a bitch? And then I got it. I said, well, he said, son of a bitch, you motherfucker. Go back, jack off in your own backyard and see how your feeder feels. In other words, he was warning me to get out of his territory. Now, is that part true? No, but it fit. I had to do it. We needed a little comedy because nobody's playing with the Vicks Vapor Rub, this Vapor Rub stuff right now. So, yes. Son of a sitch, you futtermucker. Go back off in your own backyard and see how your feeder peels. Well, Bigfoot, unfortunately, I wasn't whacking it out in those woods. I took a pee, man. If you call taking a pee whacking it, maybe you're a little funny, Bigfoot, huh? Yeah. But yeah, that's a little story on Bigfoot. Now, we have other stories to go with Bigfoot, but we don't want to put them out there right now because we have to figure out some kind of bizarre title like I'm baking cookies with Bigfoot or something so that we can do the videos without having to worry about the videos being taken down like the first two. They were actually taken down within 15 seconds. 15 seconds of being posted. Not during the upload. Right after the upload, they disappeared. And unfortunately for us, we didn't get any views on them because they disappeared. And I was actually given some kind of a warning. I forget what it was. It was a stupidity warning. Are you an idiot? Blah, 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 whatever. I don't know. But anyway, we're going to figure out a way. And if you wonder why when you came to the channel tonight, you seen a blurry face, I did that on purpose. Because you've heard the story of Blob Squatch, where people take pictures and they're never clear and they're always fuzzy. So I gave you a fuzzy picture of Bouncer Slab. Any big animal needs somewhere to shelter. Well, Rob Random, they've been here before we were. If you do any research, you could check history with Indians, the Native Americans. They were here for thousands of years with those people. There was actually battles where the big hairy men would try to take food from the Native Americans during the cold winters, and there was wars. They were killing each other off. Unfortunately for the Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, man had a tendency to mate like a bunch of rabbits and have a whole bunch of youngins and grow up fast, and Bigfoot didn't take care of it when he should have. And not to mention we had, some conquistadors and such come up and use those big old barreled guns that shot a ball the size of a freaking egg into the chest and probably stopped a few. Plenty of stories back in the old Ponce de Leon era and stuff. But you can research that. They've actually been noted as a species on North America and other continents, by the way, for thousands of years. Are they biblical? I don't know. Are they wild? That I don't think. Any animal who doesn't show aggression unless you go in the woods with a gun. If you go out without a gun, they don't seem to bother you. You go out in there with a gun, man, they're beating on trees and throwing shit at you. So they know what a gun is. They've been around it, or they've seen what a gun can do. In these mountains here in Pennsylvania, they've taken quite a few hunters' deers. A lot of hunters say, "Oh, yeah, I know I shot it. I was a good lung shot or a good heart shot. I shot it through the neck. I spined it. I know it's dead." But we couldn't find nothing. We found a little bit of blood and then nothing. Well, if something picks it up, the blood trail is going to stop because the blood's going to drip on that creature and it's just going to disappear. Now, how do they do it without leaving tracks? That we have not figured out yet. But we have found tracks. So, very, very intelligent creature. Ground-dwelling creature. Mostly nocturnal. They are out when we are in. And we don't live under the ground, which would probably give that reason for that earthy, doggy smell. They live in the ground, and nothing like the smell of fresh dirt, But I'm not going to prejudge anyone's character on that one, and hopefully I'm not being prejudged for it. This was just a little test stream about Bigfoot. They look pretty hairy. Well, nocturnal could be, but I think they're also vegetarian. So I would have to go with, yes, they might not be trusted around small animals, people, dogs, kids, whatever. I don't think they could be trusted. They're probably omnivores. There's no doubt in my mind. But they do have what looks to me that I've seen in Pennsylvania. Their teeth look very herbivore. They're very flat to me. In Minnesota, it was a little different. Not only was the animal much bigger, but it seemed like it had larger canines. Canines were more definite, more prominent. But they never did anything more than snarl at you. And if you didn't get a deer, I think they were laughing at you. You could be in your stand and those things could be watching from a distance and you'd hear like hooting and hollering and they were just laughing. You couldn't get one, son of a bitch. I'll go and grab one off. I'll jump off a tree and grab one, whatever. I don't know. But you never know. You just never know. Sure, it wasn't Vikings that got lost. Well, random, possibly. Who knows? Maybe they met a circus ape and had a love affair and something happened. But that would not explain the Indians' knowledge of said creatures and said tribes of creatures, because they call them tribes. My hometown had an area next to it that was named Giant's Ridge for a reason. I never even thought of it as a kid. I never thought, why'd they call that Giant's Ridge? I used to hunt there all the time. I saw weird things. I never really thought nothing of it because when you saw it out in the woods, when you grew up in the woods, it was no big deal. But later in life, I said, wow, I know why they call it Giant's Ridge. I used to see them big son of a bitches out when I was shooting grouse, and they'd look at like a homeless person begging for those grouse. But I wouldn't give them up. Nope, I just got to my motorcycle as quick as I could and got the hell out of them woods. And sometimes it was a long ride, but they only seemed to follow so far, territorial or something. And I never did leave anything behind up there because we also had wolves, and I didn't want the wolves to pick up the scent of what I left behind if that thing didn't grab it, and I didn't want the wolves chasing me out of the woods. Although we really never had any recorded, that I'm aware of, any recorded attacks by wolves. But there were a few attacks by other animals that were unmentioned and always removed from history. They could make it in the newspaper one day, and then they had to retract or make a retracted statement a couple days later. That told me someone was hiding something. So are they real? Well, I know they're real. But your opinion, to me, it doesn't matter. Your opinion's your opinion. But when you actually come across one, then you'll know. You know, not everyone does. Bear versus Bigfoot, who wins? In my opinion, it actually depends. How old is the Bigfoot? What size is the Bigfoot? What size is the bear? Bears are a very powerful animal. The ones that I have seen as far as Bigfoot size goes, I don't think the bear would have a chance. I mean, they'd probably get a couple good scrapes and bites and everything, but I don't think they'd have much of a chance against that critter. Honestly, if it's a juvenile Bigfoot, probably a bear would probably whoop its ass or scare the shit out of it, or a big one would come out somewhere because they're never alone. But a big one, nothing. There's nothing out there except a really big gun that'll take down a big one or another big one. And unfortunately for us, just like us, they bury their own kind. And yes, they do bury their own kind, as is put forth in an earlier video of mine of well, it's kind of a marked grave, but the unmarked grave in the woods. Where it was located, the size of the grave, and the fact that it was where those stumps were. Yeah, when an elderly one dies or something happens or someone shoots it, wounds it, eventually the infection kills it if it doesn't kill a whole bunch of people and get caught, and then they send in people to get rid of it, and then you never hear nothing about it anyway. I'm pretty sure that's what's there. Either that or someone from back in the history was put there. I don't know. You know, this place was settled, you know, back early. You know, it could be from the 1600s, 1500s grave marker. I don't know. But it's there. And it sunk down pretty good, so whatever was put in it just wasn't covered heavily, and it decayed. Would I have the balls to dig into it? As someone who worked for the Cemetery Association for multiple years of my life, no. I will not dig into it. I don't want to know what's in there, okay? I don't. I just know that it's been there a long time. A long time. And if there was any carvings on the stone, they're gone. But it's the only one of its kind out in the woods. There's no other graves, no other markers like that anywhere in the woods. And that one just happened to be, it was funny how it was put there a long time ago, my opinion, because the trees on either side of it were very, very large. Take 3 men to put your arms around the trees on both sides. So it would have been something that happened a long time ago, and someone else came across and just said, okay, we're not going to do anything. We're not even cutting these trees down because those trees are bigger than all the other trees. So someone else knew what it was, and they left it alone for hundreds of years. Was it there for hundreds of years? I don't know. My opinion, it looked like it was, but we weren't going to mess with it. So there might not have been nothing left but dirt there. I don't know. I'm not digging it. Am I full of shit? Most definitely not. Am I crazy as a loon? Sometimes. But I'm just telling you straight out, you know. There's a location nearby that people were actually raising goats and sheep to feed the friendly ones in the same area as the one that we watched for 23 years was. And the people were a little strange. They didn't like other people. They liked the animals. They didn't like other people. They bought more feed from the local feed mill than any other people, evidently for their sheep and goats. But they didn't really eat them, I guess. I don't know. You can go up there now, and I was thinking of sneaking up there, but I see everything's posted since the elderly had passed away. I was thinking of going up there and taking a picture of the bone pile. Last time I was up there was quite a few years ago with a friend of mine named Dusty. That's his nickname. I'm not going to tell you his real name. And we saw a bone pile. It looked to be a mixed bone pile of maybe goats, sheep, deer, and other things. I don't know what they were. You know, there was a couple bear skulls in there, actually. And that pile was about 8 feet tall and about 20 feet long. Up around that area on the backside, there was a couple small shanties, which looked like they would have been appropriate for raising sheep or goats in the Pennsylvania winters and all. You know, I don't know. But the area was very well trampled. And I don't think two elderly people trampled this specific part of the area heavy. And a story that we got about this area was years ago, this Dusty and I were digging bottles up in this area, close to this area. And an old lady come out of the woods, all flanneled up, come out, walk down, and said, "What are you guys doing? You better not be digging my ginseng," and blah, blah, blah. And we said, no, we're just picking up bottles here along these tracks, you know. Now, we were about 150 feet from the tracks. It is, okay, well, you be careful. And remember, there's wild animals in these woods and blah, blah, blah. Well, about this time, she turns around, starts walking up the hill, and a train is coming by these tracks. And I look at my buddy, and I said, that was kind of weird, man. She just come out of nowhere. Yeah, this lady in the woods. And as we seen her disappear over the hill, a bear came barreling down right down her path. Came barreling down that path, just like she had turned into a bear or something, you know? That bear came down that path, and we tried to grab onto that train. And we coasted about 6 miles and got off before we got off that train because we were scared shitless. We left everything behind, our packs, our shovels, our food, everything. Everything was left behind. And when we went back there, our shovels, our food, our pack, everything was gone. So we knew that she was feeding every kind of critter up there, evidently her goats and sheep, but it was like a watchdog. That son of a bitch scared us out of there. And I used the term bear lightly. I said bear for those of you who are faint, okay, at mind. I wouldn't have run from a bear like that, just letting you know. But I use that on purpose because I didn't want it to sound too freaky, but it's real. It happened. It was 1989. A few bones from lost walkers, hunters, be interesting to see if you had any metal artifacts. If so, that would be, man, no metal artifacts. Broken bones, a lot of. I have film. Yeah, I have film. Well, I have videos, and am I going to release them? Yeah, eventually. I will release them just to make everyone happy. I'm trying to figure out a way to do it. I told you that. The first one we put out was taken down within 15 seconds. I can't, I'm not going to lie, okay? It uploaded and poof, it was gone. So it was a censored video for some reason. And it was my own video. I took the video. I was in the woods. I made the video. And they gave me these goofy warnings, you know, and it was almost like getting a copyright strike, you know, like copyright warning or whatever, about a video that I made in the woods myself. So evidently somebody copyrighted Bigfoot. I don't know, you know. I don't know. Did they? I don't know. Just do a teaser. Yeah, well, we were thinking of that too. I have to sharpen my editing skills. If anyone knows anything about me, I'm a woods person, a fisherman, out in the woods a lot, hunting wild mushrooms, doing fishing, bottle digging, whatever. I'm very rough around the edges, and I'm not very technologically savvy. And that's not my only excuse. I'm not all that bright either. But when I see something, I'm going to tell you I saw it. I'm not going to lie. If someone says, did you see that? And I didn't see it, I didn't see it. If someone says, did you see that? And I saw it, oh, you damn right I'm going to say I saw it. I don't care who it is, and I don't care who's holding the gun to my head and saying you didn't see shit. I saw it, okay? I know what it is. And the interactions have never been bad to this point. I feel that we have been lucky, and I feel that our luck could run out. We don't know. I mean, when all the game animals disappear in your area, and they start showing up, when do we become the game? When do we become the food source? In our very, very close area, very close to where we are right now, where I'm at right this minute. Last year, there was a screaming of a lady. It sounded like a lady in the woods, screaming. It scared the one neighbor lady crazy. She was like nuts about it. Her dog went and hid under the couch, but there was just screaming. And I was picking on her because she had her first sighting after she told me I was crazy for years. She had her first sighting about 60 miles from here, and she saw one, and now she knows it's there. And she said, I think I know what that is. She says, unless there's a dead person up there. And I said, well, I don't know, you know. We all stayed away. We didn't go up in there because it stunk. The ground, the wood, after a couple of days, it got really bad. It got rank. It stunk up there. That whole area stunk. And we probably should have went up, but we didn't. Because nature's nature. Well, then we noticed the foxes disappeared and the coyotes had broken necks in the area. The coyotes, you're finding them along the edge of the road, man. Their necks were broken. They weren't shot. They were just busted up, man. They were twisted into little fucking pieces. They weren't eaten. They were just twisted up. Well, old Mama Cookie and I decided to go up and check that hollow out, and we went up to look for some mushrooms up there. Did we have any luck finding mushrooms? Not this time. Were we scared shitless the whole time we were up there? Well, other than the fact that Mama ran into some kind of a snake, and we didn't really see any animals, which you normally would, except a couple deer up on the top of the hill. We got down into that hollow where that smell was coming from, and we found what the smell was from. It was a completely full-grown doe with her head twisted. The deer was almost completely gone, laying by a stream, and its head was twisted facing its back. It was evident that only one hind leg was taken. The other one was still there. There was no other animal tracks around, and there was no gnawing on the bones. But what was really crazy about it was the bones in the neck were broken, and the ribs were crushed. I mean, they were broken up. The ribs were crushed. And it was easy to tell, of course, because like I said, it had already decayed most of the way. But why didn't something else, some other animal up there, eat the remains? Why were those bones not scattered? Why did it die there and stay there? Considering the fact that we have coyotes and fox all over, and raccoons and possums and skunks, you'd think something would have cleaned it up and the porcupines would have eaten the bones, but nothing touched it. It was just there. Something's smell scared them away. Something in that area kept them from that animal. Why didn't that animal finish? I think that animal moved on for a while, but then it showed back up about a month and a half later. Do I think is a Bigfoot? Yeah, I pretty much, from what I saw and the imprints in that soft shoulder of that area and the trail that went up through, yeah, but why it only took one hind quarter off or one leg off, I don't know. No bullet holes. I checked fully. The skull was completely there in reverse, facing the back, and there was no holes in it. There was no holes anywhere. Just the ribs being crushed was what was weird. Those ribs were crushed. Like that thing was picked up by its freaking legs and just slammed against a tree or something. I mean, they were crushed. Its neck, its head, everything was crushed. I was thinking going back and retrieving a few of the bones in the skull here this spring. That's if the other animals haven't gotten it, but we haven't seen any other animals, so we don't know. Well, why would Bigfoot? Well, 9 chances out of 10, where this was located, if you knew where I'm talking about, you would understand that there's people close by. And it might have only had time to kill it there that night, because it happened at night, late, it was dark, and it was screaming, and, it happened that night, and it probably had people who were curious. It sounded like a woman. We couldn't have been the only ones who heard it. So it sounded like a woman screaming. Someone probably went up in to check to see if they saw anything, and it took off. And being approached that way with such an elusive creature, I believe it just left and stayed away. Have we found any other animals in our area lately? No. We had deer everywhere in our backyard, turkeys by the hundreds around here, even pheasants. We had freaking everything you could think of. Bears crossed the back. Nothing this year. Not a thing. Once again, the animals are disappearing in this area. We don't know if it's disease, or we don't know if it's an animal eating them. And once again, if it's an animal eating them, we are in trouble, because eventually those animals are going to run out and they're going to want something to eat. We had people who said, well, maybe it's big cats. It could be big cats, even though they so-called don't exist in Pennsylvania. We have seen big cats. We come across them. And paw prints that big are not bobcats, okay? And seeing them cross the road in front of you up in the woods where you're going fishing, you know what they are. They were probably introduced by the Game Commission. The Game Commission probably doesn't want to take the fall for it if someone gets hurt by them, or they just came back by themselves. We don't know. We don't know. But we won't go into that, because that's kind of a worse topic than the Bigfoot topic. It's worse to talk about mountain lions than it is about Bigfoot. Yeah, we had smell. That whole area reeked for a while. Yeah, it's been back. Not that long ago. We sent our daughter to a dumpster to throw some garbage in the dumpster, and she was supposed to go down and drop something off at a neighbor's down the way, about 60 yards from where we were at. And something hollered. My son and I were at the front door, and something hollered. It was like something, I can't explain it. It was like a cross between gorillas, lions, an elephant, a whole bunch of different sounds, like all combined into one. And we froze. Every one of us. My son, who is fearless, he's fearless. He just froze, and all I seen was his head turn slowly, and he looked at me. He was white as a ghost. My daughter was holding the bag in midair that she was going to throw into the garbage, holding it above her shoulders in midair. She just stopped and froze and looked back at me slowly. And where I heard it, it sounded like it was really close, like really, really close. And I told her, I said, you need to run to your uncle's house. Run, run, run. So she ran over to her uncle's house, got to the front door and got in, and then I walked up and got up to her. We're up to them. Told them what happened, and evidently they heard it, but they weren't sure what it was either. And that was like the real last one we really heard that loud, where it sounded like it was going through your body. I mean, we've heard them off in the distance, maybe a quarter mile, half mile away. We can hear them. They're not, they're not far away, but they're still lurking in the area. So do Bigfoot exist? My opinion, yes. How can I disclaim something that I've seen? I can't say it's not there if I've seen it, right? Have you seen one yet? Maybe not. Maybe you have. If you tell me you did, I'll believe you. If you tell me you didn't, I'll believe you. What's the difference whether you did or didn't? I'm going to believe you either way. Because I have, okay? And I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings about Bigfoot, We've had different episodes and different, interactions here. Much different than Minnesota. Minnesota, they seem to stay pretty far away. They didn't want, of course, we were out there when we hunted in Minnesota. We used some pretty big rifles, and maybe they knew that those rifles were badass. But, it was pretty cold there, too, and those rifles froze up a lot, And they always seemed to really show up when you were hunting alone. If you went out, like I'd go out on my three-wheeler. I had an old Yamaha 125 three-wheeler. I'd go up into the backwoods because they went pretty good. I'd get up in there and I'd park it and I'd go stand on this great big post that was next to a set of tracks, old railroad tracks, decommissioned. And I'd stand on that post and I'd watch that area as much as I could. I never really saw. I heard things. It sounded like a moose, like a moose thrashing in the woods up above my three-wheeler where I had it parked. Well, when I walked back to my three-wheeler, lo and behold, right alongside of my footprints were these huge, huge barefoot prints. They were barefoot. There was like a person with no shoes, but they were huge. And I never saw nothing walk by. And those tracks weren't there when I got there. And that spooks the shit out of me because that thing went by me. I'm up at a post, 12, 14 foot up in the air, up on an old rail post. And I did not see that animal walk by me. And I was right there by the road that it walked up and the old path that it walked up into. I didn't see it. I saw the footprints, and the footprints were right to where those noises were coming from, so it had to walk by me. I don't know how I missed it. Maybe I was just cold. It was really cold, really, really cold. We were in the 0-degree temperature area, and I was hunting. I might have just been a little hypothermic and missed out on it. But it got past there. And I went over to the machine and worked to get that son of a bitch started because it was cold out, like I said, and I wanted to get out of there. And I flopped that thing around, picked it up, turned it around sideways, went back down the trail I came, and flew down the old rail grade, where the old railroad tracks used to be back when the mines were booming up there. And I never went back up there because the footprints were like two of mine. I put my foot heel to toe, and those footprints were like two of mine. And I didn't want to meet it. And I could hear it thrashing, just snapping trees in those spruce, but you couldn't see through the spruce. The spruce were so thick, I couldn't see, but I could hear it. And it was right there. It was right there. And I didn't want to mess with it because I remembered the legs I saw moving under the spruce trees when I was grouse hunting one time, and I cracked a couple grouse, and those legs started walking. They were big like tree trunks. I didn't see the upper part of the animal, just the legs. And I know one thing, I watched it go for about 30, 35 yards under them spruce because it was pretty open under them spruce, about 4 foot off the ground. And I never saw that thing get down on all fours. It just kept walking slowly, and it would stop by the trees. Like it would just, it was like get to a bigger tree and kind of stop by it, and then it would keep walking. It kind of told me it was cold, calculated, and intelligent, and it wasn't a bear on its hind legs. No way in hell. No way in hell. I've never seen a bear walk that far on its hind legs, and I've never seen that long of legs on a bear. But that's just me. So this was my introduction to my possible future Bigfoot videos that I'm going to put out. And I said possible because I'm going to try to put them out. I didn't want to shake up anyone. Y'all know I make all kinds of weird videos. I make food videos. I make mushroom videos. I make fishing videos. I make bottle digging videos. I make just totally screwy videos. I make rants and raves. And I didn't feel like picking on anyone tonight because old Scam 7 and Green Diaper Wacky don't enthuse me. I mean, they're just boo-hoo beggars. And I don't feel like getting under their idiotic skin anymore. They're just a waste of life to me. Anyone who says they don't want a bag and bags, that's just, yeah, that's, hypocrites. 3 kinds of people comes to Bigfoot: non-believers, the believers, and the knowers. Yes. Rob, what color are they? Do they have lighter or darker hair? Well, I can tell you this. Up north, in Minnesota, to me, they were dark, very dark. And I thought that was to the contrary of the weather, because we had a lot of snow, and I thought that animal would be lighter because of the snow for camouflage. But when it's dark, you can't, honestly, that animal does not show up in the woods. It's like dark colors is perfect camouflage. It's a good hiding technique. Here, I'm going to go with more of a reddish brown, but one that we saw was kind of almost like it was kind of grayish, The skin has always been the same, gray. In Minnesota, I thought I saw something that had big yellow eyes, about 6.5, 7 inches apart, and about 7 foot tall. But here in Pennsylvania, we're noticing the red eyes, and they're about 9 inches apart, and they are scary as shit. Now, they might have just been looking red because of the moonlight that night that Mama Cookie and I were visiting each other in the backseat of my car. They might have just been moonlight making the eyes look red, but it was weird because we got to see it blinked once. And then it was these wide eyes just staring at you. And once it realized that we saw it, the eyes went away. It was like it turned its head the other way, and you couldn't, I don't know. Very spooky, though. Very spooky. Is there variations? I think there could be. I mean, if they're inbreeding, that could have something to do with the variations of footprints I found. I found some footprints that have the normal 5 toes like any human being, whatever, would have. But then I've also seen some footprints that look like a 4 toes. I've heard about 3-toers, but I've never seen a 3-toe print that I'm aware of. Now, I could have and wrote it off as something else. But if there's inbreeding going on, that would be an interesting fact, that it would be changing their feet. They would have some kind of deformity. But then that's, again, something that you don't want to trust in the woods if they're, not aware of their surroundings in the way that a healthy one would be. It could become dangerous. And that's one of the main reasons I don't generally take my kids into the woods in the places we go, because we've had interaction. Now, there's places we take them, we haven't had any issues, no problems, never seen any sign. Now, we feel comfortable, and there's places we do not feel comfortable going ourselves, but we still go. We are diehard, and nothing's happened so far. And I say so far, and I say that lightly. Yeah, anything that makes and the fact anything that makes footprints is probably real. But a person could make giant tracks too. But I don't think a person could make those tracks and sink that far into some of the ground that we've been on. It would take a lot of weight. I'm talking 500, 600, 700 pounds of weight to make an imprint when I can't leave an imprint and stomping my foot to make I don't leave a print. And these things are leaving it just walking by. Yeah, they're pretty heavy. They're pretty big, and they exist. And I believe they're pretty much mostly nocturnal, and I also believe that they live in the ground. They live under cave or have underground. I don't know. They live in the ground. And it's probably one of the reasons why so many people go missing in a lot of the state parks, national forest, game lands. Do your research on that. You might be surprised at how many people disappear. And because they disappeared in game lands, parks, state, national forest, well, they don't look for them for very long. They just say they're gone. And you never hear nothing else about it. But you can research it. As a matter of fact, that's your assignment for tonight, children. Go and research all the people that have disappeared just in the last year. How about that? If you want to do the last 10 years, do the last 10. But do it just the last year. You will be impressed. And once you start reading the stories, or they start telling you the stories, what's happening with these game lands and these national forests where these people are disappearing, it's going to scare the shit out of you. Because you're going to ask yourself, what in the hell did they put those game lands or those national forests aside for? Do they know? Do they communicate? Do they make a... Who knows? Unless you're in the clique, you're not going to know. I spent a lot of time in the woods, so, I guess I'm in the Bigfoot clique. They don't seem to bother me. They didn't like my oldest daughter, though, but they don't seem to bother me. I think it's a mutual respect thing. That's probably why when you ask why I haven't put any new videos out on them or anything, is I think there's a mutual respect. I have a feeling that I won't see them anymore if I do that, or if I do post videos, I'll have I don't know, I've heard bad luck stories and everything about it. Exactly. A person would not make a trackway miles away from civilization just on the chance that someone would see it. Not unless they had a moonshine still or something out in the woods, but when you don't smell nothing mashing, nothing cooking, you know, it makes a lot of sense to me that they'd be underground only because of what we've seen in the past. But I've also heard of people stumbling across them sleeping between logs, laying on the ground between logs. I guess they needed a nap, or they were the sentry that was supposed to be watching the entryway for the other ones, whatever. And they fall asleep between the logs, and people walked up on them, and they just lay there. They don't move, and nobody I know that said anything about them has ever gone and tried to poke them to see if they're alive. They just kind of get the fuck out of the Jones real fast. You get out of there. Because when you see something laying there that's 7, 8, 9 feet tall, and you don't know whether it's alive or not, and you're already so pumped up and adrenaline and nervous, you're afraid to check to see if the chest is even moving or it's breathing, or do they hold their breath a long time so they look like they're dead? We don't know. Nobody, science isn't telling us shit about them. Do they do experiments on them? Of course they do. People find them and they disappear. They get taken and they're told to shut their damn mouth or they're going to disappear. I mean, we know this. It happens. Is there military or government involvement in getting rid of some of them if they're rogue or bad? I would like to know how they know when they're rogue or bad, but they have a tendency to show up when there is something going on that's bad. So I would have a feeling that there is some type of communication, or there's someone who's like a caretaker, a human being, that keeps an eye and sees what's going on. And, you don't really think about it as a job, but who knows? We don't know. Look at it. There's millions and billions and billions of dollars of government funding. We don't know where it goes. Who's to say that they're not people out there paid to watch and make sure that these things don't go crazy? I don't know. Who's to say there's not people out there who get rid of them? I don't know. But it's kind of bizarre. It's kind of bizarre. It's, hey, there's alternate realities to everything. We don't know what's out there, okay? There could be a whole heck of a lot of other creatures out there that we're not aware of that are nocturnal, that come out at night in the woods where people aren't, or in the river bottoms where people aren't hanging out. People are, there's a lot of untouched area. There's a lot of places where people don't live and a lot of places where people don't spend a lot of time. And if you happen to walk by on chance, you're that one person that walked into that area in 20 years or 10 years, you either are going to look like a food source or you're going to scare the shit out of these animals, so they're going to stay away from you. They're going to hide. Common sense, ladies and gentlemen. They do exist. And people say, well, I didn't see one. Well, you weren't in the right place. Or they weren't there, or they were moving, or they were in another place, or they didn't want you to see them. It doesn't mean they don't exist. Like I said, prime example, you walk in the woods where nobody's been walking in 20 years down by an old river bottom. You just happen to take it off beaten path, whatever, or no path at all, or you seen a deer trail and you followed it and you seen something. Now, you might have been the first person there in 20 years, but you got fortunate enough to see it, which means it's there. And if there was 40 people there, they would have all seen it too. But you were that one person that just happened to be down there and seen it. Hey, who cares? It doesn't make you crazy. Nobody should accuse anyone of being crazy just because they saw something in the woods. What we got going on here? I would imagine they disappear easy because use water to hide flooded caves with air pockets. I don't know about the flooded caves. Got out at night in the woods. Worst we get here is probably an angry badger. Well, I'm not going to laugh at you about the angry badgers because that badgers tear some stuff up, dude. Now imagine an 8-foot tall badger on his hind legs. That strength that little badger has. Imagine that in this animal that shows the DNA traits of some type of primate and some type of human, but it's also unknown. Oh, by the way, you can research that. Yeah, just the hair, the fecal material, the DNA is an unknown primate, okay? How could you have an unknown primate? How could you have an animal that doesn't exist? It's not, remember, they say it doesn't exist. How could you have an animal that doesn't exist protected in so many states? Once again, do some research. You'll be surprised. Bigfoot is actually a protected species. And remember, we're being told it doesn't exist. Now, who in the hell would put aside all this money for this funding to protect this species if it doesn't exist? Okay? I don't know. In some people's minds, maybe it's just as false as, climate change. I don't know. You could, whatever you want. But who put that money aside for that? To say that it doesn't exist, but it's protected. Who did it? Check it out. No, we have never seen any. Oh, the badgers. Yes, the badgers have badass claws. The Sasquatch that we have seen, they pretty much just have dirty fingernails. No claws. I've never yet it's never come to my attention that they've had claws. The badgers do, yeah. They're diggers. Bigfoot's a tool user, man. I think it uses sticks, rocks, whatever. Now, let me tell you something. They could throw a freaking rock dead on. They could throw it 50, 60 yards dead on, and a rock that you couldn't hardly pick up. They can throw it. They can throw a rock, a big one. And they use that. A lot of people don't realize it, but Bigfoot actually, and the grouse were along the old tram roads. We've seen Bigfoot take handfuls of stone off the side of the tram road and throw it, and the grouse would just fall and start kicking all over the place like a shotgun. They can do it. They are capable. They are so powerful. They snap us in half like a twig. So that's enough of my Bigfoot for tonight. I'm going to let my friends say hello to you guys. I'm not going to talk no more Bigfoot tonight. It was nice seeing you all. I'm glad a couple of you showed up.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for showing up. This was just a Bigfoot video. And as you see, the brainwashed tooting chicken is, well, protected by my bear squatch. That's to keep Bigfoot out of there. And it's terrible.
Yeah. Bigfoot was like my brother and stuff, but he has hair and I don't, but my arms hang down these two because I'm Bubbles, and for 50 cents you can blow bubbles, and that'll make me a happy potato with the vapor rub, and the brainwashed tuning chicken troll, and the baby slab, and the Dr. Fish troll, and the Chef Slabby troll.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night. Bouncer's gonna say good night.
Well, there you go. The critters are still here. Wanted you to know I'm going to say goodnight, and thank you for showing up. I know there wasn't a lot of people here tonight. I know the title wasn't exactly enticing, but I can change that title, make it more enticing. But I didn't want to clickbait it. I just wanted to talk about Bigfoot, and did I make sense? Maybe yes or no. It's the way it goes. Do I act crazy? Yeah. Does the things I do with these stuffed animals make me crazy and unbelievable? Well, that's the idea. You see, I'm working on an angle here. I want the people that are actually watching, that are government officials or local government officials, to think I'm nuts and that nobody will believe me and I can put this shit out in real. I'm thinking out of the box. Yeah, this guy, I look like a head in a jar right now, floating around in brain juice and energy drink, sipping around in my own bubbles and brain pee everywhere. That's me. Have a good night, everyone. Take care. Didn't mean to scare you. Bye. Yes, it's entertainment. You guys all take care.